Then mental health. So what happened is I started to watch a gangster film called Goodfellas. And there's a part in the film where they kill this man, or they try to kill him. They have an argument within the pub, he comes back, they kill him. Or they thought he did, they get him in the boot of the car, and they're driving down the street and they hear a banging. So they pull up, and when they open the door, he's there still alive saying, please, no. And he gets a knife, doesn't he? Runs over, stabs him, and there's a sound like... And for me at the time, I thought, it seemed realistic. But what started happening is my hairs used to stand on end. And I used to start thinking, I want to kill people like that, right? And so what happened was, I would play that scene over. I could sit there for hours, and I was playing it over and over again and sitting there going, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then even to a point, my mates would come to me around the house, and I would sit there and have them sat there, and they'd be a bit nervous of me, and I'd be like, no, let's watch just one more time. They'd be like, we're saying, we watched 50 times, now we'll go one more time, just watch it, isn't that mint? Do you see where the knife went in? And I think they started thinking,
yeah, fucking hell, right you got me thinking now. I'm just trying to work out now, because obviously just probing a little bit about your relationship with your mum, obviously the bullying when you're a kid, you know, you say you're a ginger kid and you get... Did you... I mean, you mentioned mental health. I mean, you're talking, that's like psychotic thoughts there.
That's when
so were you, how angry were you as an individual? As a young lad, 16, 17, 18, how angry were you generally? Obviously, you had the shit with your place in the food chain with lads. But how angry were you as a person?
So when I was younger, it wasn't the feelings I remember having wasn't a feeling of anger. It was a feeling of not fitting in and not feeling loved. And so there was, even though I love my mum and we have got this strong relationship and she's always been there has been little incidences what can make you not feel loved kind of thing. Yeah. So I remember, when my mum first met like a new fella now and she had a kid, and obviously me going off the rails and her going through everything, she come to a point where she just had enough of me. I was getting brought in by the police, but one day I come home and went to the door and it was Christmas Day, and she come to the door and chucked a pair of jeans at me and went. And I walked home, and on Christmas I was sleeping in an empty house, and I remember like crying myself to sleep and just feeling sorry for myself and just felt like I wasn't loved. So I always had this feeling, not of anger at first, obviously all that come later on, but at first in my younger years, a feeling of like, I'm not loved and crying myself to sleep sometimes. And
that's interesting then. So as much as your mum's there for you and she's kind of in those classes, I mean, I remember.
But I can understand it though. In the circumstances, and being brought in by the police, and if she wouldn't like give me what I wanted, I'd call her a fat twat and I'll kill you and all that. And in the end, she sort of not give up. She was always there. So if I went to jail, she would never not be there. And she would always be there for me. And I always felt that. But there was times when I was too much.
Yeah, the circumstances. So as much as you got that nice bond, I mean, if you're not going to jail all the time and you're flying through your career or whatever it is, that blossoms in a different way, doesn't it? I guess, but with the fact that you're on the wrong track and bringing back stress and trauma and fucking heartache, and
I've never mentioned this, but so when I was younger, we had our house. So people come in the house, poured oil and petrol all over the house, ready to set it on fire. And my mum came in and like nearly caught them. So what my mum was worried about was what happens if I was in the house and I walked in on them. And so these were ready to burn the house down and stuff. And so this is the stuff what was coming back.
And is that through you?
Through what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then the police at the door every day, or me being arrested and my mum worrying. And it was just, I can't even imagine, as a parent now, I can't even imagine what I was putting her through. God. So I get it. Do you know what I mean? At the same time. So
those psychotic thoughts, you've built up some kudos in your world that you're now in, which is in and out of jail, and kind of this anger's coming through you, which is a kind of, you feel just like you don't fit in anywhere, but where I guess you do fit in is here, and you're going to run the roost, and fucking you're getting some kind of buzz from the violence, but then seeing that scene in that film, and I guess not just the scene of the stabbing, but that kind of world, that's triggering a fucking, what was starting to get a voice, almost like a voice.
Yeah. Well, I was mentally deluded in the sense of, I thought a gangster was what you see on the telly, you see. I thought if people fear you, then you're a gangster and
Right.
stuff like this.
Yeah.
So wrong. I wouldn't know how to organise a tea party, do you know what I mean? I was just deluded. I just thought run around ruthless and just fear no one. And this might sound crazy to people. Obviously, I've got it now, but at the time, I lost feeling of love, fear. So the feeling of fear would be like there's a local hard lad and no one dare mess with him. Someone said, oh, don't mess with him, he's hard or he's mad. It became a challenge in my head. So I'd be like, why have you just said that to me? What do you think? I'm scared. Why would you say that to me for? What you
think I'm, yeah.
You think you've said that to me like I'm going to be scared. And so then I would start walking the streets and deliberately walking past
Looking
them and
for it,
staring at them and like, what? Have you got a problem? Know what I mean? And start trouble. And that's what I started to do. And obviously with the mental health, I started to feel like I had a couple of fears. One is losing. And I used to have this fear if I lost, everyone would be laughing at me and everyone would think I'm a mug. And so I'd always used to say to myself, anybody ever beats me, I have to kill them to get my respect, to make sure. This is what I used to think. And so I started to then, so I would train a lot at the time.
Yeah.
I would constantly be training, constantly keeping fit, wouldn't take drugs, maybe on the weekend and stuff.
All right, so that side, like the hedonism side, like where normally a lot of young lads who walk this line, there's a lot of chaos with substance and alcohol and the violence tends to happen when the ball's deep in that.
Yeah.
But you're more like fucking, you're like in a movie montage of training, being fucking ready
at all times
to fucking go.
Yeah. And then I started to walk about with the packs of knives. So there's not the kitchen knives you get with the packs.
Yeah.
It's the big one to the little one, and this has a sharpener.
Yeah.
So I'd sharpen them, and I'd have them up around my waist, and I would walk about, and I've said this a million times. A lot of people walk about with them, and they're not intending to use them, or they don't, and then they get into a fight, and then boomf, and they end up killing them, and then they make out that they intended it, but they didn't. I had them on me. And anyone who crossed me, I pulled that knife out. I used to feel, why would you pull a knife out and not use it? That's a mug. That's an idiot. Why would you? Oh, I'll stab you. Like someone pulled a knife on me, and I got mad, and I ran at him screaming, and he ran off. And I don't know whether that was because he wouldn't have stabbed me, or whether it was because he was shocked them that I ran at him like I did. It just whoa, and he just ran, and. So I wouldn't be like that. I used to think, there's no way I'm going to pull a weapon out on someone and not use it.
Well, that to me, you made me think there, Shane. That was almost like when you're a little kid in the playground, you're 9, 10, and someone takes your ball and it's the big lad or it's the tough lad or whatever. There's that thing that happens where a lot of bully lads will front people up. You are in your face, and a lot of lads are just, oh. But then I found sometimes that if a bully lad did that to you and a lad fucking squared up and said, yeah, what?
Like,
often and it's almost the same with a knife. It's like, yeah, I've got a knife, which should be enough to fuck you off. Then somebody else says, all right, and then you're, oh, fuck. It's like, he's more serious than I am.
Yeah, and it scares them, the fact that you've got that gameness.
Yeah.
And I used to say things to them too. So I used to get really seriously angry. So when they had a knife at me, I used to go, you are going to die.
Oh, fuck.
You pull the knife on me, I'm going to get you. Wait till I find out where you live. And I would be saying this while I'm coming at them, going, come on. And I would say that to them and get mad. And I'd come at them. Obviously, you're not going to just run straight into someone with a knife. But I'd be good. I'd come close to them, and if I could get them, I would. But obviously, if they're swinging, but I'd just be talking to them.
So it's interesting manner. You say, because and some stats, I haven't read them for a little while, but I had Darren G on this podcast a little while back, and obviously Choose a Life, Not a Knife. And when I was researching and reading into his story and a lot of what's happening with statistics of kids with knives, obviously knife crime's through the roof, but would you say that most kids who have got a knife end up using it out of just like the fucking mishap of having it? Because most of them don't have a knife to actually fucking use 100%. It. They have one because people have got one and don't want to use it, but because you've got it, you end up using it.
Well, you do. There is the odd people who... You get the few people like myself who the whole point of them are having that, and they will use it, and it's intention, and they want to.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, it's young lads who carry it for safety, They carry it because they need protection or they feel safe with it. They get into a little scruffle with somebody. They didn't intend to use it, but they end up pulling it out. The lad comes at them, they stab him. They've wasted a life, and that is. But what happens is they'll go to prison, and really they're devastated because it's not what they intended to do. But they've got to put that front on now. Yeah, I'm a murderer. Yeah, I'm a big boy. But really, they didn't have the guts, and it wasn't their intention to use it. There's a difference. And there's people who will, and obviously not now, but at the time, I would gladly kill someone. I wouldn't have even been bothered, and I wouldn't have even been bothered if I got caught and went to jail for the rest of my life. It just wouldn't have bothered me.
See, that psychology is fucking so difficult for people to wrap their head around, isn't it?
There's something. See, like I say, if the situation is if you're a normal person, you're carrying it for a reason, you end up using it. That's logical. But with some people, it's. I'll give you a little example. I used to think I'm not the hardest man around. So how do you put fear into people who are?
You'd be the maddest.
You have to be willing to kill, and that's. If you're not scared of prison, and you're not scared to kill people on the spot, you are a very dangerous man.
Fucking hell.
And it doesn't matter how hard you are, because if you're willing, if you're willing, because 9 times out of 10 people who can have a good fight, they're not willing to go to prison for the rest of their life.
No.
They're scared to go to prison for the rest of their life. But what if someone isn't, and they're willing to go that one step further than you at all times, and you don't care who's around you, they don't care who you've got backing you up. They'll just get you whoever they can, and if you're on their side, they'll just try and get whoever they can at the time. Go on a rampage if you have to, but so what? Who cares? If I'm going to go to prison for the rest of my life for one murder, I might as well get as many as I can before I go. Jesus. And that mentality there used to make me confident in myself.
Feel something. Yeah.
Whereas now I've lost confidence in the sense of like, I haven't got that anymore. And so I used to rely on that. So I used to just think, yeah, you might be harder than me, but I will win you in the end, because I'm going to go 10 times more further than you'll ever go.